I also don't want to be the face of the brand, which has been really tricky. To get on Instagram and just tell your story and put your face out there picks up a lot of traction quickly. I've been really hesitant to do that because I want the dolls to tell the story through families and children rather than being an influencer. It's something that I've struggled with. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've struggled with, personal branding, because I like my privacy. I don't like the internet sometimes, but it's the nature of modern life. That's just where everybody operates. You can't hide from it. But I'm still working out how to balance that with having a personal brand, and the thought leadership behind that is really tricky because
Hi, Jana. Welcome to Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast. We are going to jump right into the deep end today and start with my big magic wand question. So if you're ready, here we go. If I were to hand you a magic wand today, what change would you like to see in the world?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. That is such a big question. It's really hard to answer, but if I could change anything in the world, it would be to have more women leaders across all industries. We know when there's 50-50 men and women leadership, we see improved outcomes for businesses. We know women make good leaders, whether it's the police force, where women are fantastic negotiators. They operate from really generalized comment, but operate from empathy and understanding, and trying to get to a positive endpoint. We've seen leaders like Jacinda Ardern, the difference she has made in the world. Some countries in Europe, for example, Finland, with women leaders there. They just make such a positive, or we make such a positive difference in the world. We really operate, men and women are different, not better or worse, just different. And the qualities from both genders on balance make a huge difference to the progress in the world. From everything from conservation to politics to business, there is a place for us at the top, in the C-suite, everywhere. And I think that would be one of the changes I would like to see, because I think we would see such difference in the world. I think we'd see fewer wars, better outcomes for children, education and hospitals, better connected communities. I mean, the list goes on. I really believe in the difference women make, and I think it's so important that we are there in those offices and on those top floors.
Yeah, geez. You just summed it right up there. I mean, it's this is so aligned with the conversations we have with other guests, with ourselves, and with our collective community. And I think the big question is, how do we progress this? I personally don't love the idea of beating the table and saying we need a seat, and I'm not hearing that from you at all. I'm hearing that to have it, we must be it. And I see that in your business, which we're going to get to, you're already doing that. You're creating that change from such a young age, and I'm excited about that. So what's your view on how is that gap going to close?
I think, in the Western world, we operate under the patriarchy. That's just how it is, a patriarchal capitalist society. It doesn't mean it's all negative. I think patriarchy has negative impacts on men and women. I think the importance of fathers as well as mothers, not undervaluing that role of the father in the family is really important. And, it sounds strange to be speaking about men and fathers, but I think part of feminism and part of having a healthy society is the important role of men and women equally. And to get to equity for women, I think the conversation needs to happen around the role model of fathers in families, or male role models, male teachers in the classroom, as well as women. And so for me, this conversation started well before I had my own children, just my own observations as a girl, as a teenager, my experiences as a young woman, being a mother, a wife, an employed parent, all of those things. But something that I noticed after having my own children were the toy aisles. And I just think the way we communicate with babies, because communication, we're at the core of being a human being. We are communicators. We look for connection. And something that I noticed was the toy aisles and how gendered they were, gender specific, to the point that they were painted pink and blue. And I just don't know if that tells a positive story from the outset for girls or boys. So that's kind of that's where I come at it from. I come from it from the beginning. I come at it from the beginning, from from babies. What are they seeing? What are they being told? How are they being communicated to? Because it starts from the outset. It's not, okay, you're a 14-year-old girl, make sure you stand up for yourself. The conversation starts so early, way before then, before our children can even speak.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. You're absolutely right. And I've noticed the same thing. My kids aren't babies anymore. They're past adult stage, but I definitely remember that. And even thinking of like Halloween costumes, how gendered they are and were back then. So I don't think that much has changed. So tell us about your company and why you started it, and how this sort of fits in with what you're talking about.
So I started SeeMeBe Toys about 3 or 4 years ago. It's really early stages. It's very it's a slow process getting a business off the ground, especially when you're self-funded. It's something that's different on the market. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of reaching out to people, a lot of self-doubt, experimentation, trialing, sampling, all of those things. But essentially it came about, I have 2 daughters. They're now nearly 10 next week, and 8, 7, 7. And I noticed after having my first daughter, the way people interacted with her, the way I interacted with her, how my husband interacted with her, just noticing the difference between friends who had little boys, the gifts she was getting. And then I had my second daughter, and then I also have a niece and a nephew as well. And I just noticed the differences in how people approach them. Your dress is so pretty. You look so beautiful today. Isn't that a beautiful dress? I love your shoes. Whereas boys, we say, wow, whoa, like, what have you been doing? And that's great jumping. And look how fast you run. The language, and we don't even know we're doing it sometimes, but, you're conditioned from such a young age. Be gentle with her. She's so little. He's all right. He'll be fine. Just those little nuances. You're not saying you're a girl, you can't do that, and you're a boy, you can, but just that nuanced language of the way we just be careful, don't hurt yourself. And we all say that as parents. We don't want our children to get hurt, but that kind of formed my initial thinking of how am I going to raise independent, intelligent women who are proud of their brains and not just the way they look, because how you present in society matters. We all look at each other, we look at ourselves, you can't get past it. So it's not saying it doesn't matter, it does. But I think having an equal appreciation for your brain, your kindness, your empathy, how you interact with people is a really important values and form part of the whole person. So anyway, long story long, I was shopping for Christmas for my kids and my niece and nephew, and I was just so disheartened. I just could not believe what was on offer. The licensed characters and the messages they were sending. There was a magic sink in the girls' aisle. Like, we can do better. We can do so much better. And so I went home and I said to my husband, I'm like, I just can't with this anymore. It's so bad. And he said, well, do something about it. And I'm really interested in politics. So these conversations have been happening, for a really long time. And he always said, do something about it, do something about it. And I thought, do you know what? I am going to do something about it. And I thought about it and thought about, what does it look like? What does doing something about it look like? I wanted to model that for my children. If you're unhappy with something, don't wait for someone else to do it. You have to be the change that you want to see. And so it must have been 2:00 in the morning. I woke up and I thought, I've got it. That's it. And so I wrote it down. And I woke up the next day and I thought, is that one of those crazy ideas that you have in the dark? Because I'm all about ideas. And, you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, that was embarrassing. Of course, that's nothing. But I just couldn't drop it. I could not drop it. And I just thought that is how we are going to start the conversation from an early age. It's how we start the conversation for families who are interested but don't know how to have the conversation. So they're essentially a collection of 6 dolls, plush characters, each with their own name, character, and career. It's not about putting pressure on really small children to decide now what you want to be. It's about the world of opportunity. You can be anything through hard work, through education. I'm a really strong advocate for educating girls. And it's about families having the conversation of, you can see this, that could be you. That can be you through hard work. You could do that. You can be anything. You can do anything. You are one person, but you can make a change. And I have those conversations with my daughters all the time. It doesn't have to be lectury. It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be woke. It can just be a conversation that they understand the world they are growing up in, the opportunities that are there, some of the roadblocks they might face, and just their everyday experiences. I know I've had my kids come home and they've said, Mum, this boy at school today, he said, girls can't be pilots, only boys are pilots. And she was so infuriated. And she was in grade one, like it starts so young. And I said, what did you say? And she said, I told him we can. And I said, you are absolutely right. And so we just have those conversations that you can. So that's basically how it came about.
I love that. And I love that you're highlighting like something as simple as a doll can help spark a conversation that can have so much impact. Because just having that permission is, I think, one of the biggest things we look for in life is like the permission to believe, the permission to accept ourselves and go for the things that we want to go for, even when it feels like different path than everybody else. Right. And I love that. And you're just honestly a typical entrepreneur, because you're just like, you want to figure it out, there's a gap, do something about it, and you did something about it. That's incredible. How's it going so far? I know starting a business is really tough. Tell us about the beginning and how it's going and where it's at now.
And if I may just interrupt before you answer, I want for our listeners and viewers to just understand and just have this beautiful image that I'm looking at now on your website, which is these 6 plushy dolls, and one's either in a uniform service, either a police or maybe a parking inspector or maybe a pilot. I'm sure you have a more specific, and one's looking like a farmer and one's a firefighter, and there's diversity and ethnicity. I just want that image to be with our viewers as you're sharing, and sorry, you may need to ask that question again, Laura.
Hey there, sorry for the interruption, but if you're a woman entrepreneur ready to raise your profile, expand your reach, and start being seen as the expert you already are, we have a challenge for you. Vicky and I have created a free guide called the LinkedIn to Latte Method. Check it out in the link below. It's designed especially for women who are done playing small and are ready to attract opportunities, clients, and increase your visibility. No tech overwhelm, no awkward call DMs, just clear, authentic strategy that works. So download the free LinkedIn to Latte guide below, take the challenge, and start turning your brilliance into real opportunities. Now, back to the episode.
Have you got it, Jana?
Got it. Thank you. Yes, there are a collection of 6. They are diverse. You can go on the website and read about them. They have their own likes and dislikes, their own personality, like we all do. There's a firefighter, a police officer, an astronaut, a vet, a gardener, because we don't all want to, reach for the stars. Some of us just want peace and, enjoy nature in our life, and that's totally fine. And then we also have a race car driver for the kids who like a bit of adrenaline. So they're some of them are uniformed, but it's more about the messaging of having that conversation. Everyone can grow up and be whatever they want through hard work and education. But it started for me slow. It's been really slow. I think I'm probably like a lot of women where you're thinking, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? Like the self-doubt and I'm trying to think of the word when we talk about not feeling like we should be there. It's escaped me.
Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that saying so much, because
Same.
it's not an accurate description of all the context women grow up in. It just, I'm really not a believer in putting all of the accountability on the individual. A bit of victim blaming is also not the right way to describe it. But, there's so much context and nuance that is missing from imposter syndrome. We end up this way for a reason. And it goes back to the start of our conversation about patriarchy. It is not healthy for everyone. But that's another conversation. My journey to entrepreneurship has been slow, unexpected, interesting, hard, tiring. There's a lot of feeling of like, am I spending enough time with my kids? Am I spending enough time on the business? Do people like it? Am I getting enough feedback from people? All of those things. But at the same time, I'm so proud of it. I'm really proud of the product. It's a really quality product, which was something I was really adamant about getting it right. There was a lot of back and forth with sampling. I was very, very fussy, which as an entrepreneur, launching a startup, I think can be the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. You really want the product to be perfect, but sometimes it just needs to be out there. It's been slow, it's been hard, but it's been super rewarding. It's been a really fantastic learning experience, personally and professionally. I don't regret it at all, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops in the future, working hard to see. I think the ultimate dream is being able to just casually walk through the shops and see a little girl holding one under her arms and, replacing other toys that maybe don't have such a positive message, and they're gone, and you're seeing a SeeMeBe plushie under their arm, carrying proudly. My girls love them. They have them on their beds, and each night my youngest rotates one. Who am I cuddling tonight? And then tomorrow night it's a different one. So it's become a major part of our bedtime routine.
Oh, amazing. And if somebody's interested in it, how do they purchase them? Is it just your website for now? Are you in any shops yet?
We're e-commerce at the moment. We would love to be in shops. E-commerce has been the go-to. So we've got an Instagram account and a website. And the reason for that is I really want to own the brand. I really want to take my time with it. I consume so much about entrepreneurship and business development, and I listen to other businesses' mistakes, and a lot of people talk about rushing into stores really quickly because they just want to get their product out there. I'm really hesitant to do that because I really want to take ownership of the brand and the meaning and the story behind it and why we're here. They're not just plush toys. They're a tool. They're a tool for families to use. We do have them in classrooms. Teachers really love them. They're in reading corners. I operate at the markets in Brisbane, across different markets, and I have a lot of different professionals stop and say, I'm an OT and I use these. These would be great to use. Sorry, they don't use them, but they've given me their card and that kind of thing. So there are different professions looking at at them saying these are a great tool. And that's essentially what they are. They're a great tool to have a conversation. They're a safe toy. They're really friendly looking. They have beautiful big eyes. They're just your little mate that you can carry around, and they just tell a really positive story. And I hope they make children feel really good about themselves. And I hope they make parents feel good about their parenting and the conversations they're having with children. Yeah.
I love how mindful you're being about your brand, about your purpose, that you're very much aligned with what this business means, not only to you, but what you want it to mean to the market.
Mm.
It's really, it's admirable. And yeah, it's a very purpose-driven business. And I think having that brand is what's serving you and will continue to serve you for longevity. Yeah. And I'm curious, Jana, we talk about branding a lot. So I think I want to open up this door about personal branding and thought leadership.
Yes, personal branding has been so I'm an ex-journalist, broadcast journalist. I worked in news for just over a decade. I did a lot of criminal reporting, court reporting. So my brand I have struggled with. So my professional brand is quite different to the dolls. I also don't want to be the face of the brand, which has been really tricky. To get on Instagram and just tell your story and put your face out there picks up a lot of traction quickly. I've been really hesitant to do that because I want the dolls to tell the story through families and children rather than being an influencer. It's something that I've struggled with. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've struggled with, personal branding, because I like my privacy. I don't like the internet sometimes, but it's the nature of modern life. That's just where everybody operates. You can't hide from it. But I'm still working out how to balance that with having a personal brand, and the thought leadership behind that is really tricky because I'm still undecided with where I sit on it personally. But something that I've been really clear about is I keep my children off the internet. It's not something that I want to include them in, which is really tricky because I have a children's brand. I could easily use them as models. They're gorgeous children. They're really happy and friendly and smiley, and they love the dolls. They're the perfect customer. But I just don't want them on the internet. So that as well has been something, like if you talk about personal branding, that's been something that I've kind of put a firm line on as well, that I don't want my kids online. I don't want to have them in any of the content or promotional material, their faces anyway. They're definitely in there cuddling the dolls, but you won't see their faces. Yeah.
I understand that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through the same thing, especially ones with, like you said, a children's brand. I keep my children out of my business as well. So I definitely understand that. And my Instagram is like private, that's where they show up, on my private Instagram, which is for my friends and family. My professional one is different. It is interesting what you're saying about personal branding, because Vicky and I are doing a lot of work with helping people step into thought leadership and become the thought leader. And we often find this sort of block between not wanting to be the face of your brand. And it's really hard not to be, because humans like to deal with other humans, right? We want to know that there's a person and I like this person, and therefore I want to work with them or purchase from them or whatever. And I wonder if, curious, because you say you do the markets, do you find being able to talk to people face to face at the markets really helps to build your personal brand and helps to in the sales and the business aspect of it, because now they're connecting to you?
Yes, and I have grappled with that because I have had people say, if you're selling the dolls, you will sell heaps of them. You'll sell thousands. And that is really tricky because I get that, but it is. Yeah, it is something I'm probably moving towards. I think it's inevitable. I'm not comfortable with it yet, but I think I'm finding within myself where I want to be before I jump on screen. I think I'm going to just prep myself and think about it for a bit, and then when I'm ready, I'll show up with how I think is appropriate to show up for the brand, for myself, and find that balance if there is one. But I think when you're talking one-on-one with people physically at the markets, it's a really different experience to talking to hundreds or thousands potentially of people on a screen. You're open to much more criticism. The personal element has been removed. Sorry. And I think of the hate online that people cop, and the nastiness and the criticism, and I worry about that. We all have feelings. I'm fairly tough, but I just don't know how open I am to that unnecessary criticism. I'm there to speak about the brand and the meaning behind it, not, cop criticism about the way I look or sound, or, whatever. Like,
Oh yeah, Jana. I
there's
hear you.
haters out there, but you can't stop them. We can't worry about what people think. Do I want to welcome it into my life? I'm not ready.
Oh, I love this conversation, Jana. Thank you, first of all, for being so vulnerable with us, because this also is a public conversation and you're fully aware of that. And I appreciate that you're sharing your heart and where you're at, because you are not alone. Most people watching this either will have been exactly where you are now, or they still are, right? Or they don't know it's coming. One of those three things. They'll wear that hat. So I really appreciate that you're willing to have this conversation, because it serves the entrepreneurial women community so well. And I also love that you have awareness that it's an evolution, because what I'm hearing in your language is that that's where you are now, and it likely isn't where you're always going to be.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I care that you've said it's all about the brand, and I don't want to be the face of the brand because the toys have to stand for themselves. And yet the more we talk and the more we dig in, which is so good for the people who are watching, right? Just take this on for yourself if you're watching this. Is that the real reason? Or is it more about the haters and the personal reaction you feel you might have or might experience, and you're not ready for that? And that's okay, right? It's about being honest about the real reasons, because when we can identify the real reason, we can work with it and move through it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm definitely scared to get online. I also struggle with being front and center. So the reason I raised being a journalist was because I can tell other people's stories. I can see the crux of a story straight away. Like I can tell you exactly what a story is about. Expert level at that. You don't even have to say it. Because you often interview people as a journalist and they'll tell you all this stuff, but there's something there that they're not saying. That is the story. That's cool. Yeah. To stand up and talk about me and what I've done here, this is a conversation, just talking to you two as far as I'm concerned, which is really lovely. Getting on and just talking to a camera, it just feels really pretentious. It feels a bit, look at me.
I love this. This is so good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not ready. I think it's probably where I'll go, because I'm so passionate about the brand, the story behind it, the meaning, why SeeMeBe exists, why those dolls are who they are. Who else can tell that story but me, I suppose?
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's your origin story. It's the reason. I mean, you would know from talking to people at markets, it's the story that sells. The dolls are beautiful, and of course they serve another purpose. But if they didn't have that story behind them, people would walk past. They'd be like, oh, cute, and move on. It's the story that makes them stop and listen and consider and actually find application in their own life. And the dolls can't tell the story. And if you ask Richard Branson, sorry to bring in a male, hero, but he is one of my personal heroes. So Richard, if you ask Richard Branson about whether Virgin would have been as successful without his face, We know the answer.
True. Yeah. And to even that out, I think of Christina Carlson, who had Kiki K previously, a beautiful stationery brand. She's reinvented herself in the last few years, but she has been, I admire her so much as well, because she is the brand, but she talks about living your dream life and what could you do if you know, knew you weren't going to fail, if there was no risk involved. And I think about that all the time. And I think social media is just one of those elements that what would you do if you thought you couldn't fail or didn't get the hate or thought you could do it well? Yeah, I think if you're not a regular poster and you're new to social media, it can feel clunky, unprofessional, ugly, not aesthetic. And yeah, but it's, as you
God
say,
forbid.
it's evolution.
You mean authentic? Oh no.
Exactly. I mean, it's always going to feel uncomfortable at first. And I think if you just embrace it, you're probably going to suck at it when you start and just do it anyway, because it gets better. Like I remember my first, webinar we ever did. Vicky and I did a webinar back early during COVID days, my first time. And I felt like my mouth was so dry I could barely speak. Like I was shaking. Thank God I couldn't even see the whole audience. And I mean, it was just so overwhelming. And then, after doing it, I don't know how many dozen times afterwards, it's like, hey, sure, I need a webinar tomorrow. No problem. I'll show up. Right. It's just a matter of like getting the reps in, and it definitely gets easier. And I think when you're telling your own story, it does feel really vulnerable. And it is really hard. And like you, Vicky and I both come from journalism backgrounds. So we completely understand how much easier it is to tell another story. Absolutely. Like we're so passionate about storytelling because we know the power of storytelling. Getting great press does more for your business than any paid ads you could put out there, right? So, but it does take a level of courage, a little bravery, and what you were saying earlier about how girls are sort of taught to be perfect, boys are taught to be brave, right? We're not often taught to be brave as women. We're taught to be perfect. And that is underlying a lot of imposter syndrome, because we think we have to get everything right, have the right lighting and the right camera and the right makeup and hair done and all these things to show up. And don't get me wrong, I do my makeup and my hair before I show up still, but but it's still right. We have all of that in us. So it is very uncomfortable to stand up on that stage. But I encourage you and all entrepreneurs to step into thought leadership, because the mission that you're on is important. And you're on this mission for a reason. And you're having impact with it, with what you're doing, the conversations you're creating. You could just be having those conversations on a bigger scale, and therein is the impact.
And you could be making that magic wand dream come true.
Yes, very true. That's very true. We are planning a conversation in a different way by hosting a Australia's largest fancy dress. So we're hosting an event at Roma Street Parklands in October 26th. And we're just encouraging families to come along and have a picnic and come dressed up in, what did you want to be when you were a little girl, boy, whatever. And just come with your kids dressed up in whatever you wanted to be when you grew up, and just having a really fun, free day out, enjoying the beautiful Queensland sunshine, and having that conversation with your child, with other families, and talking about, what do you want to be when you grow up? What can you be?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it can be anything, whether it's, I'm 4-year-olds love superheroes and all those things, but, even a superhero plays into the conversation, like you were saying, bravery, courage, adventure, embracing those parts of ourselves. So if anyone's in Brisbane on the 26th of October, we'd love to see you there.
Oh gosh, that is amazing. And I could see that growing into like a summit with fantastic women in all kinds of different, maybe male dominated careers, in
Totally.
their uniforms or in their thing and talking passionately about it and what it's like. And little girls seeing them going, oh, wow, like I could be that too. And the sparks that
Absolutely.
could create, and
Yeah.
women stepping into those leadership roles, into those different spaces, and just owning it and being it and seeing it. We don't see it enough, right? We want to see it more.
Yeah. If you can see it,
Mm,
you
yeah,
see it. Yeah.
If
perfect.
you can see it, you can be it. See me be.
Mm.
So SeeMeBeToys.com is the website, just spelt like the regular words. See me be. Just love it. It's such a beautiful concept, and you are such the wonderful person to be driving this concept. And I'm curious, Jana, why was it that you decided you needed to do it? I heard that you just needed something to change. Is it the political persuasion? Is it this kind of this drive to be the change maker? What is that for you? Why you?
I think it probably came at a point in my life where I'd had my children. I knew journalism was probably not going to fit with the way I wanted to parent. It requires a lot of dedication, a lot of long hours, a lot of you just not finishing on time today. That doesn't really
Mm.
work with children sometimes unless you have a lot of support. Um, and so I knew I was at a crossroads on what was next. It was devastating leaving the industry. It was, and I'm sure you can relate to this as journalists, it was such a massive part of who I was. Who are
Mm.
you? I'm a journalist. That's how I answered that question. It was just so ingrained in who I was. It's where I got my self esteem, my pride. I was really proud to call myself a journalist. I was really proud of the organization I was working for at the time. And so I knew storytelling was going to be a constant part of my life. Um, and then when I had children, just that urge to show them from a young age what they could be. And something that I used to do when they were babies was read, and we still read together. Reading's like just one of our staples. It's really important. It's our, there's no negotiating on reading. It's something we do all the time. When the girls were babies, I would read to them, and I would read a book by Alison Lester called Kissed by the Moon. And it was just such a beautiful story with gorgeous imagery about the love that a parent feels for their child through um, just through nature, and just that the love you feel for a child you cannot put into words. And that book I would read to them nearly every night because I just felt like it it captured the essence of how much I want for you and your one beautiful life. And it did it in such a gentle way that it was just so beautiful. And the words are so beautiful. And I just remember reading it and feeling so emotional, reading this story to a baby who has no idea what's going on. But I think they're really smart. They don't need to understand the words, they really connect with your emotion.
Mm.
And yeah, I think so. That started from that almost of how can I show my children what they can be, and how much I love them and how much potential they have. I think as parents, it's so complicated being a parent today. There's so much working against us with tech and just everything, the expectation on working parents, the constant fight for flexibility, for fair pay, all of those things. The ability for men to take more time off to level the playing field, that it's okay for them to take time away from the workforce to spend with their children. All of those conversations, they were all flying through my head, like just so much in my head. How can I show my children their potential. And that's what I feel my job as a parent is. I can say yes
Yeah.
to ice cream and yes to tech and yes to this, but am I saying yes to your potential? Probably not. And so I hold that line really firmly, which is not easy. My 10-year-old, nearly 10-year-old, is not always happy with the rules in our house. But, I always have her potential in the back of my mind. And I just hope that the decisions we make today are showing her and her sister their potential, and that they can live up to it through guidance and hard work and education. And SeeMeBe is part of that. It is showing them, look what mum's doing. She's just giving it a go. Might flop, might not, but she gave it a go. They're beautiful dolls. The girls have got one each. They've got the collection. So that's a good start, that they're seeing that themselves. Their friends love them. We're often, kids are often going home with one under their arm. But I'm all for that. I'm all for sharing the message.
Yeah. What an inspiration you are to your kids. I mean, you are showing them what being brave looks like. Because it's a brave thing to be an entrepreneur. It's a big risk,
It is.
and you're out there on a limb taking it and going for it and showing them, who knows what their potential is going to grow to be. Just seeing that alone, I think, is beautiful. And absolutely, that's our job. That's what our women are. We're the nurturers. We're the bringers of that and community. Because you talk about the friends that come over and then and all of that. That is, I think, what women bring to the world. Our unique gift is pulling community together, nurturing it, filling it with love, possibility, potential. And that's why we need more women, going right back to the beginning of this conversation, at the table at a 50-50, so that we're bringing the strength, the beauty, the nurturing, the risk taking, the boldness, everything together, and working together for betterment of all. Like that's utopia. That's what the world needs more of. So yeah, I love your piece of it. Are you ever going to write a book? I feel like there's a book in here.
Yes, yes, yes. And that is when I talk to people, that is, where are the books for this? And yeah,
Mhm.
definitely, there's a story to tell. I think, if I had one brand that I'm looking to and taking guidance from, it's Bluey. What a fantastic brand. And something that I love about Bluey is there is no baddie. And we often show children from an early age there's a goodie and a baddie, and there's not. There's just difference. Everybody's different, and they come at situations from their perspective. And that's part of teaching children empathy, that, you saw it from this angle, but I wonder how they saw it from where they were standing. And I think a brand like Bluey is so good in teaching parenting from empathy, firm rules as well. But I think empathy is definitely part of the missing in the story of branding at the moment. If I'm looking at teenagers on TikTok and toys at the moment with being beautiful, and dolls that change clothes all the time and different shoes, like it's just so surface level. And I just hope SeeMeBe breaks through all of that from an early age and shows, oh, that's all stuff and you can have fun with that, but at the core of it, it's who we are and what we want from our one amazing, beautiful, precious life.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I love everything about your brand and about who you are, and I look forward to seeing you, singing the song of SeeMeBe. It's a young company, a strong company, talking about potential. Wow, like it's there. I'm curious, what's the vision? You said that the greatest gift would be to see a bunch of kids, randomly seeing children with the toys. Yeah, what's the real vision for the company? Where are you heading with this?
Oh, the vision is global. I have such strong belief in this brand, and I think it's something parents are calling for. I think parents are looking for connection through play without having to get down on the floor and, oh yeah, play is not my strong point. Even though I shouldn't say that, because I have a toy company. But I think for parents, they're looking at, getting on their children's level in a meaningful way. That's what siblings and friends are for, getting in amongst, real childish play. I think parents have a place in play, but it's a particular role that fulfills learning and conversation and language development and teaching empathy and role reversals and trying out different things globally, I think, is the answer. I think the dolls, it transcends language. No matter where you're from in the world, you want your child to live to their potential, however you see that, whatever that means for them, whatever it means to you as a parent. There are no rules around it. Your child doesn't have to be this one thing. It's just about acceptance and growing together. And I think that is a global message. It's not Australian specific, it's not American, it's not Indonesian, it's not Chinese. It is, families speak a universal language, and that's love for their children. And, that inability to articulate that just hope that you have for your children, that they're growing up in a safe, interesting, amazing world around kind people.
Yeah. Perfectly said. That's it. Perfectly said and perfectly wrapped up. And I want you personally to know, just from our side of things, when you go back and watch this episode, you're going to see yourself for the thought leader that you are, because you have articulated everything so beautifully, so eloquently. You've told beautiful stories. You've shared vulnerably and authentically. And you are absolutely ready to share your story. And I just want you to know that. And thank you so much for joining us today so that we could have this conversation and talk about these important things for women and for our children. And I can see the vision of the beautiful world that you're ready to create and you're building and being such a beautiful part of. So I'm just glad you're here to share it, and hope everyone here give you some support, share some love, and definitely check out your website. We'll share the link in the show notes so that people can go and see for themselves.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.